Yesterday was Mother's Day in the US, so I was really inspired to read some poetry for you that I thought approached the idea of mother from a different gateway. And yesterday I read a poem by Ahmad Shamlou called Milad, which I had translated into birth, and it was a short poem, and I created even a shorter video of it, and it's on my IGTV right now. But I wanted to read a longer poem today, which is also called Milad. Shamlou had a few poems called Milad. I know this is mirrored and it's showing up backwards, the text. I don't know why, but anyhow, he has, I wanted to read the longer one today. It's yesterday's poem, Milad, was sort of an indication in a nutshell of how in a very primal and elemental way, Shamlou approached the notion of sort of this combustive, spontaneous Big Bang creation of humanity. And in this poem, Milad, in this long poem, which is from one of his early books, Lahzeh-ha و Hamisheh, Instance and Eternity, which he wrote in 1960. He really, really expands on this notion of just this coming into existence from nature. So here it is. It's a relatively long poem. I'm only going to read the first stanza in the Persian, just so you get a feel for what it is, and it sort of repeats in the next stanzas. And then I'll read the entirety of it in English for you. Milad by Ahmad Shamlou. نفس کوچک باد بود و حریر نازک مهتاب بود و فواره و باغ بود و شب نیمه چارمین بود که عروس تازه به باغ مهتاب زده فرود آمد از سرا گامزنان. اندیشناک از حرارتی تازه که در رگهای کبود پستانش میگذشت و این خود به تب سنگین خاک ماننده بود که لیموی نارس از آن بهره میبرد و در چشمهایش که به سبزه و مهتاب می نگریست نگاه شرم بود از احساس آتشی نوشناخت که در تنش می سوخت و این خود آتشی سیری ناپذیر بود چنان ناسیرابی جاودانه علف که سرسبزی صحرا را مایه به دست می دهد و شرمناک خاطره ای لغزان و گریزان و دیر به دست بود از آنچه با تن او رفت، میان او بیگانه با ماجرا و بیگانه مردی چنان تند که با راه های تنش آنگونه چالاک یگانه بود و بدان گونه آزمند بر اندام خفته او دست میسود و جنبشش به نسیمی میمانست از بوی علفهای آفتاب خورده پر که پرده های شکوفه را به زیر میافکند تا دانه نارس آشکار شود. So that was just the first stanza of this long poem. So even though this long poem is called Milad in Persian, which, like the other poem that I read yesterday, is also called Milad, which translates basically into birth, I chose to translate this poem into, the title of this poem into Genesis, because as I read it for you, you will understand why. It seems to me like a retelling of the Adam and Eve story, a retelling of the creation story in the biblical texts, in the Abrahamic texts, in the Quran, the Old Testament and the New Testament. So here it is. Fasten your seatbelts. Genesis. There was the faint breath of wind and the thin silk of moonlight and fountain and garden, and it was on the fourth midnight when the new bride landed from home in the moonstruck garden, wandering, pondering the new heat coursing through her breast's blue veins, itself like the earth's burning fever that feeds unripe lemons. And there was, in her eyes that watched the moonlight and flora, shame from the newly awakened lust burning in her loins, unquenchable itself like the ever insatiable thirst of grass means to the meadow's greenness. And she was shameful of a long-awaited, faltering and fleeting memory of what befell her body between her, alien to the event, and a fierce alien man, swift and wise with the ways of her body, sweeping so covetous a hand on her sleeping body, moving as a breeze charged with the scent of sun-soaked grass that peels away the blossom sheaths to reveal the unripe seed. There was the faint breath of wind and the thin silk of moonlight and the garden's fountain that danced in the little pond with its swaying lithe arms. And on the fourth midnight, the new bride slumbered on the stretch of grass, and in the same breath, I was in the newly sprouted leaves, or in the fluttering breeze, and perhaps even in the deep waters, and the breath of the wind stirring little blossoms on the thick tree wailed in me, and bright streams of rain wept in me. There was the faint breath of wind and the thin silk of moonlight and the garden's fountain, and on the fourth midnight, the new bride sleeping on the bed of newly sprouted grass with fire in her core trembled onto herself from sensing a man beside her. And I was neither leaf nor lake nor wind or rain. O you plant spirit, my body was your prison house, and the new bride was inseminated by the spirit of tree and wind and water before sensing my father's lips upon hers on the fourth midnight. And I turned a leafless and windless city into my prison house without the memory of wind and leaf ever escaping me. My eyes were like two elm leaves when I was born, my veins like water lily vine, my hands maple cloths, my spirit fleeting like wind and water like rain, and a life-sucking pain like the cry of death burst in me as the old elm fell to the land by the thunder's wrath. And I was, O you strife-stained nature, O Father, your child. I'll just leave you with that for now. This was the translation of Ahmad Shamlou's poem, 1960 poem called Milad, which I translated into Genesis. I think you might come to realize why. As I see it, it's sort of a retelling, an elemental retelling, a non-religious version of the Adam and Eve creation story. Until the next time, my friends. Bye.